Right now, as you're watching this, 47 million American families believe they're about to inherit wealth that will change their lives forever. They're wrong. And by the time they realize it, it'll be too late. $124 trillion. According to Cerulli Associates' 2024 analysis, that's the exact amount set to transfer hands in America by 2048. The media calls it the greatest wealth transfer in history. They're lying. This isn't a transfer. It's a consolidation. A mathematical inevitability playing out in front of your eyes. And if you think you're on the receiving end, you need to understand something critical. You're not watching wealth move, you're watching it concentrate. And there's a pattern to this, a 4-stage pattern that has destroyed the middle class of every major civilization that has ever existed. Here's what nobody tells you. This pattern is so predictable, so mathematically precise, that once you see it, you can watch it unfold in real time. Stage 1, the foundation. A nation establishes a currency backed by something real, gold, silver, something with actual value. This creates trust, economic expansion, the illusion that it'll last forever. Stage 2, expansion and debasement. The government faces mounting costs, wars, welfare programs, imperial overreach. So they do what desperate governments always do. They quietly degrade the currency. They reduce the precious metal content. They print more paper. They promise nothing has changed. Stage 3, loss of control. Inflation accelerates, the currency collapses. And here's the critical part. The middle class, holding their wealth in that debased currency, gets obliterated. Meanwhile, those closest to money creation, the elites, the landowners, the politically connected, they survive. They consolidate. Stage 4, the reset. A new currency is introduced. Wealth has transferred from millions to a few thousand. The system restarts, and the people, they never see it coming. Let me prove this to you with 3 separate civilizations spanning 2,000 years. Same pattern, same outcome, every single time. Rome, 64 AD, the city is burning. Emperor Nero needs money desperately. The denarius, Rome's silver coin, had contained 95% pure silver under Augustus. Nero reduced it to 80% purity. That was stage 2 beginning. 130 years later, under Septimius Severus, on that same coin contained just 46% silver. Then came Caracalla in 215 AD. He introduced the Antoninianus, supposedly worth 2 denarii, but containing only 1.5 times the silver, monetary fraud on a civilizational scale. By 253 AD, the Antoninianus contained 20% silver. A decade later, 2%? 2% silver in what was once the most trusted currency on earth. Prices exploded 1,000%. Small landholders lost everything. The wealthy, who held land and gold, they consolidated power. The Roman middle class was annihilated. Check each stage. Stage 1, Rome established a trusted silver standard. Verified. Stage 2, centuries of currency debasement to fund wars and expansion. Verified. Stage 3, hyperinflation, economic collapse, total destruction of middle-class wealth held in currency. Verified. Stage 4, currency reform, wealth consolidated to the elite, empire weakened beyond repair. Complete. Now jump forward. Weimar Germany, 1921 to 1923. After World War I, Germany owed 132 billion gold marks in reparations. That's over $500 billion today. Germany had abandoned the gold standard during the war. They lost. Now they had to pay in gold-backed currency while possessing almost none. The Weimar government made a choice. Instead of raising taxes or cutting spending, they printed money. Watch how fast this accelerates. By mid-1922, the exchange rate hit 320 marks per dollar. 6 months later, 7,400 marks per dollar. In January 1923, France and Belgium occupied the Ruhr Valley. Germany's response? Print even more money to pay striking workers. By November 1923, $1 equaled 4.2 trillion marks. 4.2 trillion. A loaf of bread that cost 160 marks at the end of 1922 now cost 200 billion marks. Families who saved for generations watched their entire fortunes evaporate in months. Anyone holding cash was destroyed. Anyone holding land, gold, or foreign currency, they survived. The wealth of millions transferred to a tiny elite in less than 2 years. Apply the pattern. Stage 1. Germany operated under a gold-backed currency pre-war. Check. Stage 2. Currency expansion and reparation debts led to mass printing of unbacked paper. Check. Stage 3. 29,500% monthly inflation in October 1923. Total economic collapse. Middle class wiped out. Check. Stage 4. Introduction of the Rentenmark in November 1923. Wealth consolidated, pattern repeated. Undeniable. Now the most recent example. August 15, 1971. President Nixon stands before America and suspends dollar convertibility into gold, the Nixon shock. For 27 years, since Bretton Woods in 1944, the dollar had been pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. Every other currency was pegged to the dollar, the foundation of the global financial system. But by 1971, America was hemorrhaging gold. Foreign governments demanded redemption. The U.S. had only 10,000 metric tons left, less than half its peak reserves. On August 11, 1971, Britain alone requested $3 billion in gold moved from Fort Knox. Nixon had no choice. He closed the gold window. The dollar became fiat currency overnight. Within 15 months, Bretton Woods collapsed entirely. What happened next? Inflation. The 1970s delivered stagflation. Unemployment hit 6.1%. Inflation soared past 5.84% annually and kept climbing. Those holding dollars watched purchasing power evaporate. Those holding assets, real estate, gold, equities, they flourished. The wealth gap began widening systematically. Stage 1. The U.S. established the gold-backed dollar as world reserve currency under Bretton Woods. Check. Stage 2. Decades of deficit spending, war financing, and monetary expansion drained gold reserves and forced debasement. Check. Stage 3. Gold window closes. Fiat currency unleashed. Inflation destroys savings. Middle class loses purchasing power systematically. Check. Stage 4. The current system. Floating fiat currencies. Wealth inequality at all-time highs. Pattern repeating again. Verified. Which brings us to today, to that $124 trillion wealth transfer everyone's talking about. Here's what you need to understand. As of 2024, the top 1% of Americans hold 30.8% of all wealth, $49.2 trillion. The bottom 50%, they hold 2.8%. Total U.S. household wealth stands at $163 trillion, the highest in history, inflated by surging stock and real estate prices. But here's the part that destroys the narrative. Of that $124 trillion transfer, $62 trillion comes from the wealthiest 2% of households alone. And where's it going? Right back to the top. Millennials and Gen Z expect to inherit $46 trillion and $15 trillion respectively. But Northwestern Mutual's 2024 study reveals that only 26% of Americans actually plan to leave an inheritance. 1/3 of millennials expect one. Only 22% of boomers and Gen X plan to leave anything. The expectation gap is massive. Millions are banking on money that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the median inheritance for the bottom 90% of Americans, close to zero. The wealth transfer is a myth for ordinary people. It's a consolidation for the elite, and it's happening because of the exact same pattern. Let's verify every stage for America right now. Stage 1. Did America establish a trusted currency system? Yes. The gold-backed dollar under Bretton Woods. Verified. Stage 2. Has America engaged in decades of currency expansion and debasement? Absolutely. Since 1971, pure fiat currency. The Federal Reserve has expanded the money supply exponentially. National debt exceeds $36 trillion. Verified. Stage 3. Are we seeing loss of control, currency devaluation, and wealth concentration? Undeniable. Real wages stagnated for decades. The top 1% now controls wealth, equivalent to the bottom 90% combined. Inflation has returned. Housing is unaffordable. The middle class is being hollowed out. Verified. Stage 4. The inevitable outcome? It's happening right now. This wealth transfer is the reset. The consolidation. The mathematically inevitable conclusion of 50 years of fiat currency expansion? Complete. You're thinking it right now. This time is different. America is exceptional. We have technology, innovation, resilience. That's what they said in Rome. That's what they said in Weimar Germany. That's what every civilization says right before the pattern completes itself. But the pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. It doesn't care about your innovation. It cares about mathematics. It cares about the immutable reality that when you debase a currency, you destroy the savers and reward the asset holders every single time. No exceptions in 2,000 years. Here's your reality check. If you're holding your wealth in cash, in savings accounts, and fixed income instruments, you are on the wrong side of history. The pattern shows with absolute clarity that currency debasement always transfers wealth from those holding the currency to those holding real assets, land, equities, commodities, things that cannot be printed into existence. The $124 trillion wealth transfer isn't a windfall coming your way. It's a siphon. And unless you understand this machine, you're not inheriting wealth. You're funding someone else's inheritance. So what do? First, stop waiting for an inheritance that statistically isn't coming. Second, understand that your savings are being systematically devalued through monetary expansion as you watch this. Third, position yourself on the right side of the wealth transfer by holding assets that appreciate when currency debases. The pattern has repeated for 2,000 years. It's repeating right now in 2024 in America. And the only question that matters is whether you're going to recognize it before Stage 4 completes. The machine was built centuries ago. It's operating exactly as designed. The great wealth transfer of 2024 isn't a windfall. It's the end game of a pattern that played out in Rome, Weimar Germany, Nixon-era America, and is reaching its crescendo today, right now. Subscribe, because in the next video, I'm showing you exactly how this machine was built, who built it, and the 3 specific actions you can take right now to position yourself before the final stage completes. This isn't financial advice. This is pattern recognition, and the pattern is screaming.